from today's TMJ4.
This is breaking news now on your...
Welcome. This is breaking news coverage from today's TMJ4. I'm Vince Vetrano.
And I'm Melissa McCready. A 5-alarm fire happening at FRATNEY and Center. We want to go right to a news conference that's happening right now with Milwaukee Fire Department.
I'm Assistant Chief Acting of Operations Dan Lipsky, Lipski. Milwaukee Fire Department received a call for a structure fire at 631 East Center this morning at 9:17. Approximately 2.5 minutes, we had fire units on scene. Recognized rapidly that this fire was bigger than a single alarm. They rapidly went to a second. We are currently at a 5-alarm fire. We have invited, and our neighboring communities in the city of Milwaukee have responded. We have 5 of our suburban partners manning firehouses in the city of Milwaukee to make sure that we have coverage at all times for all of our citizens. What we got here was there's an automotive repair facility on the first floor of the building that was open and operating this morning. At some point in time throughout their morning routine, a fire started. They were able to evacuate safely, but the fire rapidly took control of the first floor. With this type of building construction, there's a lot of hidden voids. The fire burns up underneath the floor, burns a hole in the floor, and it continues its way through the building. We faced numerous hazards upon our arrival with hydraulic fluid, oil change pits, hydraulic pistons, gasoline, you name it at a facility like this. So obviously caution is the word of the day, although we try to get in front of these things as quickly as possible. The fire rapidly progressed through the second floor and eventually out through the roof. There are some apartments in the building on the west side as well as some studios. At this time there are no civilian injuries. We have transported 2 Milwaukee firefighters to the hospital for heat exhaustion. As you can imagine, with the heat index being as high as it is, we are constantly rotating our companies in and out of the hot zone, keeping them hydrated, making sure that they don't cramp up, making sure that they stay effective, because quite obviously our firefighters' safety as well as the citizen safety is our #1 priority. I anticipate being here for a minimum of another 2 hours. We'll probably have standby companies well after that. The reason you don't see firefighters crawling through this building were the hazards that I highlighted for you in the beginning of this. And now that we've had localized collapse of some of the floor structures and roof structures throughout the building, it's not a safe proposition for us to put people in there. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Is the fire out at this point?
About what you're hearing, initial reports, maybe what people heard. Was there really gas involved, some sort of explosion?
I don't want to, at this point in time, I don't want to speculate. I have heard those things as well. The Milwaukee Police Department, the Milwaukee Fire Department Fire Investigative Unit are on scene. They are investigating, and as you can imagine, the fire of this intensity in a building of this size, that investigation is going to take quite some time. And obviously we will be forthcoming with those details as we get them.
Chief, let's talk about the fire itself. Is it completely out at this point? And did the building collapse or anything of that nature?
The fire at this point in time is not out. It is a deep-seated fire. It is in the floor membranes, it is in the ceilings, and it is towards the center of the building. So since we can't go in there and get it, we have to throw the water through the water towers, the deck guns, and the hand lines from the outside to try to penetrate to get to that fire. That's what's taking the time. We're throwing a tremendous amount of water at this fire. I encourage all the citizens of Milwaukee at this point in time, refrain from watering your lawns. Please don't open the fire hydrants. We need the water here, and God forbid that we have another emergency in the near vicinity. We're going to need the water there. So I do urge restraint in utilizing the city's water supply at this time.
Talk about it.
5 suburban departments helping you guys. Give us an idea at least how many firefighters you believe you might have here on scene right now. At
last count, I had approximately 40 firefighting rigs in total, and over 125 firefighters and command staff. And let's be upfront with this. We're also getting tremendous support from the electric company, gas company, the police department, county transit. So it is not just a fire department only operation. It's truly a partnership with all these organizations. And again, thanks to our suburban partners for coming and helping us.
You said that you didn't have any.
1 second.
The chemicals from the auto repair shop, do those make a difference in how you fight this fire?
Absolutely, it does. Just the name on the front of the building will spur caution, and that caution is in the. Generally, we will throw our mask on and red right in there to make sure that we don't have anybody in there, which is what we did here today. And as we realize those hazards, and as we take a more cautious stance, we start to withdraw those companies and set up for a defensive operation when it is obvious we're not going to get it in those first 2 or 3 critical minutes of a firefight.
Chief, let's go back and talk about the chemicals itself. What do we believe, again, is in that building, and is it explosive? And with the fire still burning, are you concerned that it could ignite even more problems?
Well, obviously, we are always concerned anytime we talk about chemicals and the types of, as to your beginning part of your question, what type of chemicals do we anticipate seeing in there? It'd be anything you would anticipate seeing in an auto repair joint. So you got your hydraulic fluid, your brake fluid, radiator fluid, gasoline, those types of things. And you've all been to an oil change place where they have the oil pit. Well, we don't want to send guys crawling around and fall into an oil change pit either. So as far as are we concerned about it? Absolutely. Do we take a precaution? Absolutely. We stay upwind as much as possible, make sure we keep our people out of it. And we've got the police department and the health department involved to make sure that people downwind are taken care of as well.
Do you know who called it in? And also, what about you said that there's been some collapse, but what about the exterior walls? How is that looking?
I just did a circuit check. I had the incident safety officer as well as the operations chief do a circuit check around the entire periphery of the building. At this point of time, the exterior walls appear to be intact. We have had some localized floor and ceiling collapses throughout the building that we were able to see from the aerial ladders.
Do you know who called it in?
No, ma'am.
The apartments themselves, were people in the apartments, and how many units are we talking about?
Don't have that information, sir.
Chief, you touched on the heat a little bit, but there were reports that 2 firefighters were taken to the hospital because of heat. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I alluded to that a little earlier. We did transport 2 of our firefighters approximately an hour and 15 minutes ago for heat exhaustion. I'm told that they are doing fine.
Talk about how you're preparing, keeping your firefighters prepared in this heat with 100-degree temperatures. Obviously, 2 have already gone to the hospital. Talk about the plan. Do you have extra firefighters here to help in the relieving process so that you don't get more firefighters going to the hospital with heat exhaustion?
That's a good question. Those of you that have been to some of our bigger fires in temperate weather, you'll notice a lot more rigs here than you would if we had more mild conditions, and that is 100% the reason why. It's so that we can rotate companies through, put them on a 15 or 20-minute work cycle and a 40-minute rest cycle, keep them hydrated, keep them in the shade, put cold rags on their necks, because they are our greatest resource, and it's up to us to make sure that they can continue as soon as this fire's out with the next emergency.
Is it a concern at all? I know a lot of people don't have power in this area right now, so they're standing outside without air conditioning. But I mean, smoke, right? It's so thick, and it's, you know, the way the heat is right now. Is that all a concern? I mean, what are you guys doing for the people that are around here?
Well, obviously it's a concern, and we are continuing to respond. People call 911, we continue to respond. We urge people to stay indoors, keep their windows closed till we get the electricity back on, keep that smoke out of your building. You'll see that the smoke will start lifting as we start getting a handle on this fire, and Mother Nature is helping out a little bit with a little bit of a breeze for us.
Is this simply a waiting game at this point, or do you continue to just pour water on the fire, hoping that you can get to the bottom of it, since it's all rough along?
Well, there's a little more strategy to it than that. We are tracking where the fire is in the building. We are constantly looking for additional openings to hit that fire from the outside with the hose line, and ultimately if we do nothing, the fire will go through the roof and then we can get it quite easily. We're not content with that. We are constantly reevaluating the building with reconnaissance from up on the aerial with thermal imaging cameras, and we are constantly adjusting our tactics so that we can get in front of it and get this to an end as soon as possible.
And explain one more time, if you can, where you believe the fire started and how it moved throughout the building.
Best of my knowledge, the fire started on the first floor in the automotive repair facility. The employees were there, they were aware of it, they were able to self-evacuate without injury. Beyond that, I couldn't say at this time. The investigation is ongoing.
And you made sure everybody's out, there's no one upstairs?
To the best of our ability, we made sure everybody's out of the building, that's correct. We have no reports of anybody missing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If we don't have a handle on this, about 1 o'clock, I'll meet you back here in the exact same point for an update. Okay?
Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assistant Chief Acting Dan Lipsky, they're on scene of this now 5-alarm fire in the Riverwest neighborhood, a fire that has been raging since just after 9 o'clock this morning.
And as you can see from Chopper 4 in these live pictures, the fire not out yet. More than 125 firefighters are there on scene, still trying to get a handle on this burning fire in this extreme heat. Our Nick Montes is live on scene. He's been there all morning long since that fire started. Nick, what can you tell us right now?
Well, I can tell you that there is a big unit that is heading out at this moment, but people here have been here since this morning at about 9:17. That's the time we got here. Around that time, we saw smoke coming from another story, and then there was a bunch of people here taking photos and video. I spoke to one gentleman who lives about a half a block away. Excuse me, there's a large engine right here, but a gentleman who lives about a half a block away that said this is the largest fire that he has ever seen, and he's been here probably about 20-some years. And again, people that work in this area said that they heard and saw things that they had never seen before. If we can go to that sound right now. Okay, well, again, I spoke to a business owner who said that he heard, or actually a guy working in this area who said he had heard several explosions and then he saw the smoke. He was very concerned for his own safety. Oh, okay, let's go to that sound if we can play that real quick.
First I saw a light haze smoke, and then I didn't really think of anything of it, but then I started looking up in the sky and I saw a really thicker smoke coming, and then after that I heard the sirens coming, so then I ran over to see what was going on, and then I heard the explosions, like I don't know if it was cars exploding inside of the place or gas cans, but I heard a little bit explosion.
There's a lot of really important art and artists in that building, and I'm glad everyone's safe, but I'm just worried for just how it's going to affect the Green Gallery and a bunch of other galleries in there, and artists. A really important part of our art community is going to be affected by this fire.
And again, you're back here live looking at the smoke here, heavy, thick, dark smoke. You see a police officer standing here. Fire crews still working on this fire when it started just after 9 this morning. Again, we have been here talking to folks, trying to get information from them. Again, it is an auto body repair shop, Joe's Auto Body Repair Shop, with some studios in there. You hear a couple other business owners here very concerned about the artists in this community, wondering where they're going to go to do their art, and again, you know, just concerned about injuries. If anyone was hurt, from what I have been told, none of the artists are injured at this time, so that's definitely some good news. I understand, though, there are firefighters, I believe 2 of them, that have heat exhaustion. So again, firefighters continuing to battle this fire. Let's toss it back to you in the studio.
All right, Nick Montez reporting live for us. Nick, thanks very much. And we have some pictures to share with you from this scene. These pictures taken shortly after that fire started. And this one really showing you how small this was when it started and the degree to which it spread. Not that this is a small fire by any means, but there you can see it contained to the lower part, and flames stretching now into the upper part of the building.
And there, it looks like once the fire was more involved, you can see the firefighters on scene. As mentioned, more than 125 firefighters and more than 40 fire rigs. They're on scene trying to fight the flames that are still happening at this time.
2 minutes after the noon hour on today's TMJ4. Of course, we'll be staying on top of that breaking news story and bringing new details from the scene as we learn them here. Now we're going to move on quickly to the I-Team learning more about who owns this business. Rob Coble live in the newsroom with that part of our story. Rob?
Well, Vince and Melissa, it's a family business. We know that. In fact, we were able to find a commercial on YouTube. I think we've got some video of that if we can play that. We know that the current owner is Frank Fix. His father, Joseph, who died last year from cancer, left the business to his son. Inside the shop, I'm told there are about 8 to 10 working bays where they make auto repairs. We also know that in that same building, as you heard earlier, there are lofts where people live. Now, I haven't been able to get a hold of Fix, but friends of the family tell me everyone was able to get out there safely, Vince.
That is the good news, Rob.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. And you heard the firefighters indicating as much that because as soon as you saw the name on the business, that raised immediate concerns, because Rob talked about some of the things that they do in there. You know, you're going to have all kinds of chemicals or other things that could catch on fire. A lot of flammable material inside that building.
Absolutely. And the acting deputy fire chief, Dan Lipsky, saying that he believes the fire started there, which goes in coordination with what some of those witnesses were saying, that they heard explosions. All of the employees were there. They were working at the time, so it appears that the fire started right there in the auto repair shop and then shot north up into the building and out of the roof. Now we want to turn our attention to the weather. Brian Goddard here to join us now in the Storm Team 4 Weather Center.
Not great conditions for those firefighters and the law enforcement and everybody helping with this fire outside, just standing out there in the sunlight. It is 95 now here in Milwaukee in the shade, and the cold front draping right across us. This is really kind of misleading because it is still warm to the northwest. The front's going to slide through, going to shift our winds a little bit and maybe bring in some drier air this afternoon. That'll help a little bit, but we are still warming up. It is only at the noon hour. We missed the record yesterday by 2 degrees. I was 98. Today's record is 98 degrees, and I think we're going to hit 100 degrees easily here in Milwaukee. A little bit of humidity out there as well. The 95 actually feels like more like 100 to 101 in the shade with the humidity, and you do notice rain showers to the north, and these will be settling in. We'll start to see a few scattered rain showers to the northwest of us up toward Fond du Lac, say sometime after 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Better chance here locally this evening and overnight tonight, and could even see a few lingering showers in the morning. But with all that said, it is hot, it is humid, a little bit of a breeze outside, and very uncomfortable. But the front is making its way through. The cooler air will start moving in here for tomorrow. So today, tonight, still very on the warm side. That heat advisory in effect for our northern counties, Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, Washington, Ozaukee until 7 o'clock this evening, and here in Milwaukee, Waukesha and points to the south until 9 o'clock this evening. It is hot, it is humid, but guess what? There's relief on the way. We'll give you all those details coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Brian, thanks very much. Got to get there first, though, right?
Absolutely.
And we continue our coverage of this breaking news story, the 5-alarm fire now in the Riverwest neighborhood in Milwaukee.
And Nick Montes joins us live once again. Nick, I don't know if you heard the press conference we were given by Milwaukee Fire Department, but 2 firefighters taken to the hospital with heat exhaustion, and he said they were working on a 15-minute work cycle and then a 20-minute rest cycle. I can only imagine just how hot it is out there and the conditions that these firefighters are dealing with.
Yeah, it is certainly hot out here. It does feel like 100 degrees, and you can see behind me here that smoke still coming this way, and that's because there is a slight breeze. But firefighters not having an easy time right now because they have their heavy gear on. But it's like you said, they've been taking breaks in between fighting this fire in the air-conditioned buses and having water and Gatorade as well. This fire started at about 9:17 this morning, and again, I actually saw the smoke. We were coming back from a story, me and Greg Best, when we saw the smoke, and we headed right over here, and that's when we saw everything up in flames and in smoke over here on we're off of Center and FRATNEY right now. And so again, firefighters continuing to battle this blaze, and I believe I heard a little bit of that press conference, and I believe they said they suspect it started on the first floor, but you know, that's at Joe's Auto Body Repair Shop, and again, there is some studios or lofts in there that artists use, and I can tell you this is a very artsy neighborhood. I spoke to one business owner who owns the I believe it's Riverwest Video and Film, and he says that you know, he's concerned about the artists because there was a couple of galleries in there, and he's just wondering where these artists are going to go now to do their arts. And then there's another gentleman that worked in this area, and he said that he heard some explosions. He couldn't tell me exactly how many he heard, but they were certainly loud to get his attention. He did come out and see the smoke, and then he worried about his own safety. With that said, though, he did take some photos and send it to TMJ4, so we do have those online. But he said that it was certainly scary just because he didn't know exactly what was going on. He did say that he did see some of the artists come out in their pajamas, just kind of confused as to what was happening in their own building. Again, this is now a 5-alarm fire. Firefighters working to fight this blaze and also taking breaks. Again, 2 firefighters have heat exhaustion, and again, that heavy smoke coming this way because of the breeze.
All right, our Nick Montes reporting live for us on scene, and Nick has been there since just after 9 o'clock when this fire broke out. Chopper 4 showing us the continued scene as firefighters are pouring water on this blaze, now at 5 alarms, and they say that they're going to be there at least for the next couple of hours.
And you can see just how much water they are using during that press conference. Milwaukee Fire Department asking that people refrain from watering their lawns at this time. They need every available source of water that they can get right now. Also, a reminder that we give every summer, and when it's this hot outside, do not use or break open those fire hydrants because of emergencies just like this one. Fire is still burning at this time, as you can see from Chopper 4.
Water pressure, a main concern. They want to make sure that they're getting enough pressure through their hoses and they're able to do what they want to do in terms of attacking this fire. And again, they think they're going to be here pouring water onto this for at least the next couple of hours. And no saying for sure, although we did find it interesting, the Assistant Chief acting on the scene, Dan Lipsky, telling us that they're using infrared technology to find out where exactly that fire is burning. But without being inside and knowing exactly what sort of fuel sources they're dealing with, anything that they can provide in terms of how long they'll be there are just estimates at this point.
Our Jermont Terry continues our live team coverage right now from the scene. Jermont, what can you now?
Well, Melissa and Vince, I was just briefed by the assistant fire chief here on scene. As we know in this noon hour, this fire continues to burn here along Center. Now, the problem is we know that the fire started on the main level, but it has moved throughout this body shop, through the floors and through the walls. And now the only thing that the fire department can do at this particular time is try to wait for the fire to more or less come back to the top so they can put out some of the flames. But because the fire is moving throughout the floorboards and also the walls, it's becoming a very difficult situation for them to put the fire out completely. Now, they estimate hopefully that they can get everything under control in the next 45 minutes. Obviously, that's just an estimation. They've been on the scene for several hours now. Now, we had the chance to just talk to Assistant Fire Chief Dan Lipsky. Here's what he has to say about the difficulties of this fire altogether.
What we were faced with when we got here was there's an automotive repair facility on the first floor of the building that was open and operating this morning. At some point in time throughout their morning routine, a fire started. They were able to evacuate safely, but the fire rapidly took control of the first floor. With this type of building construction, there's a lot of hidden voids. The fire burns up underneath the floor, burns a hole in the floor, and it continues its way through the building. We faced numerous hazards upon our arrival with hydraulic fluid, oil change pits, hydraulic pistons, gasoline, you name it at a facility like this. So obviously caution is the word of the day, although we try to get in front of these things as quickly as possible. The fire rapidly progressed through the second floor and eventually out through the roof. There are some apartments in the building on the west side as well as some studios. At this time, there are no civilian injuries. We have transported 2 Milwaukee firefighters to the hospital for heat exhaustion. As you can imagine, with the heat index being as high as it is, we are constantly rotating our companies in and out of the hot zone, keeping them hydrated, making sure that they don't cramp up, making sure that they stay effective, because quite obviously our firefighters' safety as well as the citizen safety is our #1 priority. I anticipate being here for a minimum of another 2 hours. We'll probably have standby companies well after that. The reason you don't see firefighters crawling through this building were the hazards that I highlighted for you in the beginning of this. And now that we've had localized collapse of some of the floor structures and roof structures throughout the building, it's not a safe proposition for us to put people in there.
And again, that was Assistant Chief Dan Lipsky just briefing us about the situation here on hand. Now, as you heard him mention, 2 firefighters were transported to the hospital suffering from heat exhaustion. Now, this is a 5-alarm fire, and even though they have a large amount of firefighters out here, they are taking shifts because it's so hot out here, rotating the firefighters on a 15-20-minute rotation so that the firefighters are not, I'm going to step out the way as obviously they're still continuing to work this, but as I was mentioning with the fire crews, they are rotating by shifts so that the firefighters are not suffer from more heat exhaustion and that they can deal with these extremely hot conditions as they are battling this fire. Yes, they will be on scene for at least another 2 hours. They hope to have the fire under control, hopefully by 1 o'clock, but as you heard the Assistant Chief mention, their concern right now is that the fire is moving through the floorboards, it's moving through the walls, and they also have those chemicals that were inside that body shop, which is a danger to anyone going inside. The good news here, we haven't had any injuries. We know that everyone got safely, and also there were some lofts and/or apartments above the body shop on the one end of the building. Everyone appeared to have gotten out of there safely. However, the big concern right now is trying to put the fire out, as fire crews here in Milwaukee have a very difficult job on their hand. That's the very latest with breaking news on your side. Jermont Terry, today's TMJ4.
All right, Jermont, thanks very much.